everyone. I hope you're doing well. I am Kentia Smith, your NC Realtors Housing Foundation. Over the past year, I've done a multitude of interviews with our local association foundation directors, letting you get up and close and personal with our directors and the people who run this foundation. I've also done interviews with some of our local association 2024 presidents. However, this interview is one of the best I feel like I've had the chance to do because it is an interview with one of our community partners. As you all know, we have the 100 Homes in 100 Counties program where the foundations is completing an affordable housing project in all 100 counties. That program has touched 7 counties, and I have the pleasure of interviewing the first 100 Homes in 100 Counties association that we worked with, which was Alexander County Habitat for Humanity. I also have the pleasure of interviewing someone who came off as a professional, but now I call it truly a close friend, Mr. Matt Cooksey. Matt is the executive director for Alexander Habitat. And I am just so honored to do this because, Matt, you are our first 100 Homes in Action interview where we let people know what the foundation is doing in the community. As I said, I consider you a true friend. So thank you so much for doing this interview with me and just letting people know about the amazing organization you direct and our partnership. So thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm very excited to be interviewed, but I'm also excited, like you said, the friendship has been worth a lot too. So It's always good to reconnect.
Yes. I love going to Taylorsville, eating the local restaurant, Teens and Deans, staying at the golf course. It is a wonderful place to be at. So thank you. I know some of the answers to this question, Matt, but seeing that this is an interview and people are wanting to get to know you, I'm just going to go ahead and go over them. But I always start off my interviews by asking, are you a native of North Carolina?
I am not. I was born in Maryland and went to college in Maryland at St. Mary's College of Maryland, and then came to grad school at UNC Chapel Hill, and then eventually ended up in grad school at NC State as well. And so basically, from the age of 22 onward, I moved to North Carolina. So I've been here since then, but more years in North Carolina, but not native, and not native to Taylorsville, either one.
Now, Matt, remind me, what is your degree in?
I have a way too many, like I said, we're not going to spend that much time, I hope. I was one of those grad school junkies that love school. So I did a lot of school, but at Chapel Hill, I was working on the PhD in political science, did not finish it. So you do not have to call me doctor, but I specialized in international relations and women in the environment and economics in developing countries. And I was always working with environmental issues. So when I burned out, I thought about it and went back to school at NC State and got a master's in forestry. And that's the weird one that no one ever expects to hear. But I have a master's in forestry. So if you want to go on a walk with me through the woods, I like to practice my tree identification to this very day.
And you are good at that type of stuff too, Matt. You really are. And he loves to go on long hikes in the woods. So that's interesting then, because with a degree in forestry, how did you start working in housing?
There is now, it's funny that you asked that because I've often said that I don't know how I ended up here. And it's only been recently, Kentia, that I realized I think I do know the answer. Sorry, you'll get me emotional. Because when we dedicate the home, we always talk about, we have everybody stand around and do a prayer and put their hands on the house, something that they helped build. And that came out of a local Baptist way of doing that. The men did it in front of me, and I loved it when they came and did the roof. And so we do it now on the whole house, where we touch the house and pray what we want for the family. And I think a lot of it comes from, for me, it wasn't career, it wasn't job. It was the fact that the whole security of having a house and being in a home, I, as a child, understood that importance and wanted to give that to other people, because that was clearly a part of my childhood. Not that we were negative. We had a nice house. That's not what I'm talking about. But my parents did a very good job of helping me to understand the value of owning a home and what it means to children. And so that's what inspired me to do this as a career.
I loved the blessing ceremony for the house we sponsor. I was there with Miss Tammy Fox, who's from there. it was amazing to me, because a lot of times people are trying to leave religion out of things, and being able to actually express to the Lord, being thankful to him for what we were able to do. I think it was amazing. So I love you all's home ceremony. I think it's a beautiful thing, but I also think it's an important thing because it shows value and appreciation. How long have you worked for Alexander Habitat, Matt?
22 years. Yeah, about 22 years. I came here. I'm their first executive director well, their only employee they ever hired. Really, I was the first employee so they were a volunteer organization that built one house, and they said they had a challenge, and I said, yes, I want it. So off I came. So that's
And
how I
tell
got
me,
here.
because I know you've told me this number, but I want people to hear, how many houses have you built in that 22-year career?
31 homes.
That's amazing.
31 homes.
That is amazing. And it's even more amazing because, Alexander County is a rural area. And so even, probably finding land and property to build on, that has to have been challenging over the years.
Oh,
And
it was in the beginning, Kentia, it was really rough. We often ran deficits, like a debt. And so I had to go around and ask people that were supplying me stuff, the local people, can they wait until we got the house closed? Because a lot of times grant money comes in at the end, not at the beginning. And so I had to do a lot of that where I would ask people to wait for us to pay them and stuff like that. Boy, I didn't like that. So we slowly grew up. And so now we're sort of mature and able to not have that problem anymore. And so now we just have all the other problems that you normally run into in the home building world.
And Matt, I think what I really loved about you all's habitat is how you all work with Alexander High School. How did that partnership start?
Um, the That's a great question because the county was close knit to begin with. And so everybody said, hey, you should talk to the high school. So I went over there and they were excited to do it. So I don't really get to take a lot of credit in the sense that I was excited about it. They were excited about it. And our high school, we only have one high school for the county. And that one high school still has masonry, electrical, and carpentry at that time. And so those three started coming, and then horticulture started coming and doing the yards. And so I started getting other kids. And so we still have it to this day. The electric class just has kind of shifted a little bit. It's now part of the community college program. So the community college instructor and kids come. And so they come over and do all the electrical work. And most of the block work has been done by kids, and a lot of the carpentry on the framing and stuff is done by kids. And like I said, putting in the yards and landscaping and grass, the horticulture class comes out and does that. And then we still also have just the high school students in the Beta Club and the Rotaract in our early college. It's a sister program there. They come out once a month and work. So we have a lot of youth on the site. So I often present it as we're sort of a mobile classroom also. Like they get
awesome too. It's awesome. Them young people be out there working, Matt. They really take what they're doing very seriously. Like, you would think sometimes with young people, and I'm sure you get some slackers, but the times I was there, it was like them kids really took that job seriously.
Well, and continue, you're getting old when this happens, but it's still a good feeling. A lot of times I walk into businesses, and here's and I'm getting ready to tell one of my favorite was I called to order countertops out of Charlotte. And when I told the guy it was Habitat in Alexander County, and he said, hey, Matt, how are you? I came when I was a high school student and helped build a house. And they remember me. We get a lot of that. Yes, we get a lot.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
And Matt, you know what? You're very hands-on too.
Try to be.
Matt be out there in old clothes, every build. You're out there doing anything that needs to be done. You are a very hands-on Alexander Habitat director. I can honestly say that. And I got to tell you, just from my experience, so I can't imagine what it's like for you, just seeing the start of the house, like coming out there when there was nothing but the dirt and concrete, and also not knowing anything about building the house. And then, Matt, I think about when I came back, and remember you all had the wood frame. Then I came back and it was walls and floors. It truly is a great process, but it's also a quick process. What makes it so quick?
No, I think we're slow compared to traditional builders. But I think what's the amazing thing is that also throughout that whole process is the family is seeing it through every single step too. And so when we are able to pull the family into it at where we are, they really, really, because we're rural and we're small and we don't have the outside people coming in and do it. They're there a lot and they get to do a lot and get to do every part of their house. And I always think how many people get to say that, but it feels fast, Kentia, when you're doing it. I think for the family, it feels incredibly slow because they can't wait to get in the house. And so we're about 9, 10 months. We used to be about a year, but now we're up to about 9 or 10, so it's better. But for them, that's an eternity when they're waiting for the house. So I think it's just who you are as you're looking at it.
I kind of thought it was very quick, and we're going to get into that some, but you were talking about the family, and I know you're like me, Matt. We get very emotional about things that we care about, and I know you care about your families, but I think what really made the one that I attended, the foundation, is that the girls, the young woman's child didn't know about the home. When I found that out, that right there kind of brought me to tears. That was the first time she had knew about it. And just being there and seeing that.
Well, and it's funny, Kentia, because I didn't know that's what had happened. And just to explain it to people, the mother was so scared to believe that something good could happen. So she wouldn't tell her child. She just was scared to death to tell her child, we're getting a home, because she didn't have the confidence to know that it would happen. Because a lot of them have had a rough journey. And so they're scared to say it. And I had never had that one happen. And yes, that was made an emotional, for a very emotional dedication, did it not?
Yes. It was amazing. And that, like I said, I even think just her family being there and excited as they was, it was amazing. It was an amazing experience. And even working on the homes, I learned so much about things that I didn't even know, like how to smooth out a floor, how to like I couldn't build the house, but I learned a lot of things about how to build it just from watching you and watching some of the builders. So I want to hear from your words, kind of how the partnership with the foundation, because you were our very first 100 homes project. You always say, which I don't like that expression, but you always say, I'm your guinea pig. But you were the one who made our board say, we want to do more. And really doing that home for you is what created the 100 homes and the 100 programs. Our foundation directors just felt so amazing that they could contribute that money to you and what it was going to do, that our president at the time, Michelle Roberts, was like, this is what we need to be. We need to be, we're the NC Realtors Housing Foundation. We cover all 100 counties. We need to be in our counties doing the work. But I kind of want you to let them know from your perspective how the relationship with NC Realtors started.
Well, it's started with questions and answers going back and forth. That's why I always laugh and say the guinea pig, and I don't mean it disrespectful. It was
not at all.
It was actually kind of fun to be that, because after doing this for many years, some of our directors are newer than others, and so you get different ones. And so they wanted to learn a little bit about the rural North Carolina sort of experience and what it's like. And so we had very frank and open conversation, and it was very loving. If you want to know my one word I'd put on it, was loving, because like you said, Michelle and yourself was just two loving people to talk to and be open with. But we had very honest communication, which sadly is not always true. So we talked about things to not do and things to do, and went through that whole process, and just were very open with each other and what expectations would look like. And the weird part of that whole thing, Kentia, and I don't know how much, I think I might have mildly mentioned it to you, but the funny thing is timing in life, because when y'all came and started asking the questions, I was actually struggling quite a bit with burnout. And so what you did, without any intention, is you made my life have a little shakeup and a change in a positive way that really helped me out a lot personally, where it was exciting. It was unusual because maybe other areas people hearing this won't understand, but almost no one ever comes and drops large money in a small little place. And usually they always pick somewhere big to do it with a media market to take advantage of it. And so you'll hear on the news that so and so bank gave, this big city habitat $1 million. Well, see, we don't get that. We don't get even anyone pay that close of attention. And so when y'all said we're going to build a home, that was the first time anyone had ever done that. 20 years, gone by, and no one had ever done that. And I had tried to get people interested, but no one here locally ever had the finances to do it. Even when I approached churches about doing an apostle bill where you would take the 12 apostles and divide the house up in 12ths and get 12 churches to do it, everybody looked at me like I'd lost my mind. Not that I was using the Bible, lost my mind, but that they didn't have that level of money to give. And so to have a group come in and believe in us and say, yes, we want to do this, and yes, we can do it. And as you know, we successfully did it rather easily, quickly, and made it work. And so the whole partnership was refreshing. But like I said, if I had to pick one word out, it was that it was a very loving partnership the whole way through. A lot of love and respect was shown, and I really enjoyed it. And so for me, not just my affiliate, but for me, it was renewal. It helped me feel renewed.
And I never forget, because our board was adamant. They said the same thing you just said. We know our large cities get a lot of resources. We want to do something in a rural community. And the good thing about us is that, our funding comes from our members. So, that gave us the reserves to do this. But I'll never forget when I called you and I said, yeah, they just, wanted to see, what would you like to see? And you was like, I mean, I'd love to, get a house built. And, like you said, me, you, and Miss Michelle called. And I remember calling you and said, okay, well, that's what they want to do. And you said, huh? I said, they want to give you the $125,000 to build a house. And you went quiet. You said, I wasn't expecting that.
Well, we should give reference because prior to that, what I had told her, she asked me how much, and I said we'd be happy with anything because we
Yeah,
would have
you
been
did.
happy with anything.
Yeah, but Michelle said, but I want to know from you, how much would you need to build a home? And you said
Yeah.
roughly about 125,000. And when she took that back to the board, they were enthralled. And like I said, I really think seeing the process up close and personal from start to finish, you may think, we did a great thing for you, but you did a great thing for our foundation, because we've always been doing great work with disaster relief and definitely down payment assistance. But the birth of the 100 homes kind of did that for the foundation, man. It was like a rebirth. I won't say that I personally had burnout, because I didn't, but I would say the foundation may have felt burnt out or a loss for direction. And just having this opportunity, it really pushed our foundation into a new aspect, because affordable housing is a challenge and is very, very serious across the state. So I just think, we kind of, as they say, blessed each other. I don't know if you know what I'm saying, blessed each other, but it's been a great. And what I really love too about, because I'm from West Virginia, so I'm from a small community. Everybody in there was so helpful. You know what I'm saying, Matt? Like even the Catawba Valley Association, when I would go and stay at the golf course for events, and they would be so protective. Remember, you were there to see me. They was like, well, there's a girl there and she's visiting mayor. You said, I know, I'm meeting her. But it was such a close-knit community. I really love that about Taylorsville. But I don't think, too, you realize that your leadership has done a lot of great work that you probably will never take credit for. But even with us, it was your leadership that really helped us, form and move forward with the program.
Well, thank you.
I
But I
think you
said,
should know you are a great leader.
well,
What's the
appreciate that.
future for Alexander Habitat? What are you working on now? What's some new projects? I know you recently just came from, if you don't mind me saying it, Canopies Foundation's award ceremony. I love Miss Terry. She's an amazing foundation director. I'm so glad we were able to get you with that partnership because they do some great work. But what's the future with Habitat? What are you working on now? Definitely if people are hearing this, how can they support Alexander Habitat?
Well, it's funny. I'm going to take a second and tell the Terry story, though, because I met Terry at your banquet that you
Yep.
did down in Southern Pines,
Yep.
Pinehurst.
At our
And
tea officer reception.
I saw her briefly during the reception, but where I really met her at, and I just think it's a good story about life, is I went down at the hotel we were staying at for breakfast, and it was crowded with everybody getting ready to go to the golf tournament.
Mm-hmm.
And Terry was sitting at a table by herself, and I was by myself. And I walked down, and I didn't really know her. I had met her for, that obligatory 1 minute thing that you do where you say hi to someone at something.
Mm-hmm.
But I walked over and I said, "Do you mind if I eat breakfast with you?" Because there was, it was crowded.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, "Please do." And we sat at the table and started talking. And that's when she realized that Alexander County was in her service area, but had never really been put in her service area, if you know what I mean. Like, so she said, "I need to work on that." And I love her for this, Kentia, is that she not only did she have that conversations with me where we talked about everything, you know how I am, but she also remembered when she went home. And so time went on, and all of a sudden I got a message from her. "Hey, I've got it all done. You're in our system now. You can apply for our Habitat grant that we do every year." So I did apply for it. We applied for an ADA house. We have a family right now that we're starting to build for where we needed to do zero entry because they have a child that is wheelchair bound and will always be wheelchair bound.
Mm-hmm.
And we were trying to figure out how to do this. And so we wrote the grant saying we needed a little bit of funding to make a zero entry house. And so they gave us a grant, and we went down and got it today.
Yes.
And that house actually is started up. The walls have started up. And weirdly, the land was level, and so we were able to make it quite flat to get into, and it's working out well. The other big thing I'm doing is something scary as the world for me, but slowly over the years, I've been accumulating land that is side by side by side.
Mm-hmm.
And so now we have a large tract of land, and so I'm trying to figure out how to develop it, and it has water and sewer on it, and so we're working on a CDBG, I can never get that out without my tongue twisting up, grant to maybe help us get some sewer and water in there. But it does have already sewer and water on it, so it's not a hard thing to do. It's more just the cost of it. And so for small organizations like mine, land development is becoming, finding land and developing it is the huge hurdle that we're now facing. And so for us, we're getting ready to tackle that. Like I said, it's 55 contiguous acres. I'm assuming we'll have to do phases like phase 1, 2, and 3, 4, 5, and 6, who knows. And at my age, Kentia, I kind of imagine that might get me retired and out of here long before we're done. But I'm not going to stop working on it, so we need to get it going. So that's where we're at right now too.
Now,
and so we always have a lot going on.
Sorry, are you wanting to make that single family or multi-family?
So you asked the perfect question. Controversially for my local area, but not for most people listening to this, I feel like it's time for our area to start considering multifamily. And so they did change the zoning in Alexander County. And so a lot of that land is zoned where I can do a much more densely for single family, but real high numbers for multifamily, and it's already allowed. So I'm going to propose that we do a mix, that we're going to have a mixture in there of single family homes and multifamily homes, because a lot of seniors wanting to age in place, or smaller families, if you can make it more affordable for them, maybe a townhome concept might be better. And so I've had a lot of conversations with that for a lot of people, but in the rural communities, there is still, it's hard because a lot of them have the dream of owning my own yard, so that's where you come into that about the yard and able to walk around and do this and do that, garden and play football or whatever. So you hear a lot of dreams about having a yard in the house. So multifamily doesn't resonate as well as it should.
Well, I know under your leadership, it's definitely going to flourish. And I think too, with you applying for that type of grant, that would be great because that's a lot of land, and I know you would be able to do some great things with it, Matt. I can already imagine some of the things you already envisioning, and if you've done that for 31 people, I can't imagine how many people you'll get put in there. And I definitely will, reach out to you too, because that's something that we could definitely still see if we could help with too. So I'll talk to you about that off the record. But one thing I did want to make sure was clear is we truly appreciated your partnership, Matt. You made us feel valued and appreciated, but you also made us know that we were doing something good and that we were helping to give back. And so I truly, truly want to say from the foundation that we were honored to become one of your partners. Your organization is amazing. You do amazing work, Matt. You're dedicated. I don't want to get into much about the family because I know you get emotional, but even the connection you had with the family, and and I do want to speak to this. You had mentioned, she was kind of from a bad situation, and I know we kind of had discussed her challenge with even trying to choose the paint for the walls and how you had to kind of be her strength through that.
Yes,
That
yeah, it's just amazing. People don't, I think that's the hard part. Building the home is often the easy part.
mm-hmm.
Um, it's the families getting them in the correct place, whether it's financially planning and speaking, or is it social networking, or is it, therapy. You've got all these issues, but with her background and her past, she couldn't pick a paint color. So we worked very hard on keeping everybody else's opinions out of her head and letting her pick. And so she ended up with a mint green front door and a mint green kitchen wall. And she loves it, by the
I,
way, because that's her favorite color.
I
And
was so happy you did that. And one of the things I loved is that you kind of recognized that um it was challenging for her because of the DV situation. She'd never had to make decisions or ever been made to feel good like she could make good decisions.
right.
And you really, I could just tell from just talking to you about that, you really was a little moved by that and really wanted everybody to say, okay, leave her alone. Let's let her think and figure out what she likes.
And I think a lot of people don't realize how much of that is going on in the background.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of times when people talk about helping Habitat, they think about, 2x4s. But I also use help in that area. Like someone might need someone to walk with them to get a restraining order. Somebody might need somebody just to talk and share their experience so they know they're not the only one that went through it. So there's a lot more going on often behind the scenes than people realize with the families as they're preparing for this. And in small affiliates, we're not doing mass numbers. So they move through in a smaller trickle. And so in a strange way, we laugh about it here locally, but it's like I've got 31 families, because I usually spend about 2 years with them.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're doing this type of work with them for 2 years,
Yep.
they some of them choose to stay
Mm-hmm.
in touch very close and some don't. But nonetheless, they're mine in the sense of, the love that you feel. And so the other night we do community bingo once a month nowadays. And so all the kids kept asking to come up and call. So I finally had to explain to the crowd that they were all different family kids, but these were kids that had grown up in the program with me. And that's why they were comfortable asking if they could come up and call bingo in the middle of the bingo night. And so, because once one did it, of course, the others had to. But so there's all these different little kids coming up. And like I said, I love, when you go through it 2 years with them, you love every one of them. So I'm so grateful, though, that there's people that are willing to do this journey and that we don't do it alone and that others come along and we get to make lives not only transformed by a house, but transformed by everything that goes into making it a home.
Now I gotta ask because I've had youth. I worked with youth too, and I'll have a youth that come up to me and they'll say, "You remember me? You worked with me when I was 15. I'm 27 now." And I'm like, "Oh, don't tell me that." When you called the person in Charlotte and he said, "I was one of your high school kids," did it kind of make you feel a little old?
It really does. It does when they show up with their children. You know what
Yes.
I mean? I had that one the other day. It was a school teacher, and she was one of my. I leave a slot on the board of directors for a high school student, and she was on it. And so she was one of my board of directors, and she's now a teacher, and her kids are like 8 and 9. And I hadn't seen her in about 10 years, and she was like, "These are my kids," and I was like, "Oh my God, I feel so old." Um, so yeah, I'm getting old.
Well, you do amazing work. Like I said, thank you so much for interviewing me. This is something I really wanted people to hear is our 100 homes in action. Just why we do what we do, why people, support what we do, and just let them know that we truly value our partners and we truly are trying to make sure everyone in every county at least has a home or a path to home ownership. So, Matt, I appreciate you. I love you. I value. Thank you so much for this interview.
You're welcome. I love you. And please let all the people in your group know they're a blessing. They
Thank
truly are a
you.
blessing.
Thank you.